I'm currently in my room in bed, and like I've kind of been struggling this past week. Like I feel like I'm just getting really stressed with like life, and it kind of hits me in waves, which is why I made my appointment with the doctor to start seeing a psychiatrist, maybe psychologist. But yeah, I started getting like really stressed out. That kind of blocks your creativity, especially for like YouTube. So like I was feeling all down. I was like, dang, like put out a video on Wednesday and like I don't even know what I want to do. And like, getting all stressed. And like for this video, it's probably going to be posted late, obviously, because today is Wednesday and the video was supposed to be up today. But regardless, I'm going to do a video on how to write your CVs and resumes, because I've helped a lot of friends, like family members too, with their CVs, or more so resumes, because that's what you use kind of more for like most jobs. But I want to go over how to write one. I've been working on my CV for quite some time now, and I know it's a struggle for a lot of people. Like I know a lot of people struggle with like what's it supposed to look like. There's so many free formats like you could get on like Google, or like Word I think might have some like resume formats. So there's a lot to it. So I just wanted to give my input on how to write a CV or resume. I hope you all enjoy this video. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and we'll get started with the video. What's the first step in having a resume? So the first thing you want to do is put your name on your resume. You want to put your address, email, and a phone number. And your email, it should be a professional email. Like don't write like bubbles97@gmail.com. like do not tell them to contact you at that email. Usually the most basic thing is to maybe have like your first name and your last name, or the initial of your first name and your last name, maybe a year of like your birthday. If you have a common name, it might be difficult to use just your first and last name as your email, but it should be something pretty basic. Make sure you have a professional email. That's the first thing. So in mine, kind of don't want to show you guys because then you'll have my exact address, but like it's literally at the top in the middle of the page. My name is in bold so they can see it clearly, and then right under I have my address, and then under that I have my email, and then my phone number. All of that is in Times New Roman and size 12 font again, and my name is in bold. After that, on the left side I have my education, and so for me, I have my college because that's the most recent degree that I've received. So I have that I attended University of Illinois at Chicago. I received a bachelor's in public health, and then I have my GPA. If your GPA was not good or you do not want to share it, do not write down your GPA. You can just put the institution that you're at and the degree. And so you would only include those two if your GPA is not something you're proud of or something that you don't want to show. This resume I use more for applying to like research positions or clinical positions. I have a line that says professional interests, and then I say conducting research on Latinx communities, breast cancer, diabetes, mental health, and health disparities. Interested in pursuing a career in the medical field as my next academic endeavor. And so that's just stating basically a summary of what you're going to see in my resume. So in my resume, you're going to see that I am interested in all those topics, and I want them to know as well that my goal is to become a physician. Like all this stuff that I have on my CV, it's so that I am prepared to one day to be like the best physician I can be. Again, that sentence might look a little different if you're applying to a job in a different field. So if yours isn't necessarily research, you don't want to put, oh, I'm interested in cars and cooking and bike riding. That's not necessarily what they want to hear. So what you can do is include a sentence of basically what kind of job you're looking for and why. Or you can also just not include this if you're like applying maybe into retail positions or like shop jobs, or like I don't know, like maybe something that isn't not like it's not necessarily academic. You could just not include it and just include your previous jobs. Like that's fine as well. Or more academic and like research jobs, like there's a lot more areas that you can do research. So like if you're a researcher, you could do research in anything. So it's nice for them to see what my interests are and where I fall. Because I am a student still, and like this resume, I would use it when I was still a student at UIC. I wanted them to know my goals, like that my dream was to be a physician. And because sometimes I would apply into medical internships or clinical internships or research jobs, and it just, for me, it felt like it made sense. Long story short, after you stated your professional interests, then I have what I call my professional experiences. And I labeled it professional experiences because not all of these were jobs. Some of these were unpaid internships. So basically this was any type of internship that I did, whether it was paid or unpaid, and it was to further develop my skills, my skill set. Again, trying to hint that I am going to be a doctor, and like I did these things to better prepare me for that. For example, the professional experiences that I have are working in a virtual research lab. I also have that I work at Mi Medico as a medical assistant and volunteer program coordinator. I have that I worked at the Molina Lab Studies as a research and scientific aid, and that was at UIC. I also have, I was a part of an internship at UChicago. I was a volunteer for the Alas Breast Cancer Support Group, volunteer at UI Health, volunteer researcher at Rush. And so all of these, they're a variety of positions. You know, there's unpaid, there's paid, there's volunteer, there's research, there's clinical. And so in order for me to group it all together and make it make sense, I called it professional experiences because they were helping me grow as a professional. If you've maybe only have done paid internships or like any paid positions, then you can maybe label it just as like work experience. That would be fine. You don't necessarily have to label it professional experience. But again, because mine was a mix of different type of positions, it just made the most sense for me to label it as professional experience. For medical schools too, they also want you to have community experiences. So there's a category in my CV that is labeled community experiences. Also, I guess I forgot to mention, what I have here is my CV, not necessarily my resume. And so if you don't know the difference, quickly to clarify it, a resume is a short, concise, maybe like one pager that you would give a job, and it includes all the jobs that may be related to that job or may show that you have a certain skill set related to that job. A CV, it's like a curriculum vitae, I don't know how you say it, but it's a CV that has everything you've ever done. Like, you can keep track of literally everything. So that's why this is like a mix of paid, unpaid, community service, undergraduate involvement, awards, certifications. Like, it literally has everything. As a pre-med student, medical student, or like even if you're gonna apply into graduate school, you should have one of these. You should have a CV to keep track of everything you are doing, so when you are applying to a job, you know what you've done, and you can pick and choose, and you'll have a better formed resume. If somebody asks for a resume and you only have a CV, you can take things out of your CV and put them into your resume and create like a brand new shortened version for that specific job. I just wanted to clarify that. So again, this has everything I've ever done because it's my CV. So the next category is community experiences, and these are specifically programs that I did that were more so like community service, and they were serving my community, and they were serving minorities, low-income families around the areas that I was at. So for example, for that I did a pen pal program where I wrote to students from Little Village, encouraging them to stay in school and like stay motivated. I did a Beta Buddy program where I was partnered with a student who was diabetic and basically became their friend. Again, kind of motivated them to do good in school, but also take care of their health and make sure that they're checking their sugars and make sure they're counting their calories, because it's important for them when they're inserting insulin. And I used to also volunteer at my mom's school, so I was just a student volunteer, and I would help her in her class, the students, and make sure they were behaving. I also included undergraduate leadership, so this includes a lot of, in general, the clubs and organizations I was involved with in undergrad. Okay, so Leo had just gotten back from work, so that's why I was interrupted. So I think we left off that on the undergraduate leadership section. I included that I was part of the Latinx Heritage Month Committee, and I was a co-chair for that. I was part of MedLife, and I was on their e-board, so I was a medical and education director. For SACNAS, the UIC chapter, I was a president and co-founder of the organization. And for Medicina Scholars, I just put that I was a student scholar. So that program, we only have it at UIC, and you basically have to apply into the program. You need letters of recommendation, then you need to do an interview, and then I think every year they accept about maybe like 30 students per cohort. It's a lot of like professional development. They invite doctors to talk, they have workshops, they teach you about different things. And so like, because the process to get into that program seemed kind of competitive, I went ahead and included it in my leadership positions. After all of that, so that was the end of my involvement. So those were all the positions I had. Again, to kind of summarize it, there was professional experiences that included paid and unpaid internships or positions. And I had community experiences, and again, those were specifically volunteer experiences, but having to do with my community. And the third category was undergraduate leadership, and that's where I included the organizations and the leadership positions that I had. On to the next part. If you are not creating an academic or research related CV or resume, you don't have to include this next section, but the next section is peer-reviewed publications. So I do have some publications. So 2 of my publications have been published, like they're done, their papers. Basically, I cited the paper with all the co-authors, and I put my name in bold. It's easier for them to find my name in the citation of the paper. The third publication, I believe it's still in review. I don't think it has been like officially accepted. So currently I have 2 publications and 1 under review, and I have those titles and the co-authors in my CV and my name in bold. Then the category that I have after that are conference presentations, and that name is in bold. And so under conference presentations, so first of all, I decided to include that because I don't have that many publications. I only have 3, and I did a lot of poster presentations, a lot of oral presentations, and so I wanted to include those in there, especially because I did receive awards for some of my presentations. So I had to split them up into 2 categories because it was getting really long. But I split it by first author presentations, and so those were presentations that I did, that I made the posters for and I presented. Those I have 7 presentations. After that, I included co-author presentations. And how that works is that if a person that you worked with on research wants to present their project at a conference, they have to put you as a co-author. If you did some type of work, if you did any work, they have to give you recognition for that. I was a co-author on other people's presentations because I worked on the same projects with them. Same thing for those. I put my name in bold so it's easier to find, because in some of these presentations they have like 7 co-authors. Same thing for publications, like there could be a lot of co-authors. So I just want to make it easier for whoever's reading my resume to find my name. And the last section for mine is honors and awards. And so this is where I list all the awards that I've won, all the maybe like honor distinctions or anything that I've won like that. I have a section specifically for that. And I also numbered them to make it easier for them to see, and like I feel like it's a little bit more organized if it's numbered. And for those, I just put the month and the date of when I got the award. again, so they could kind of keep track of when I won what award. And I also put it in order, so the most recent award that I've won is number 1, and then the last award that I won is the oldest one. Then the very last category are skills, certifications, and other relevant expertise. And so for that section, you know, I feel like everyone kind of puts it, but like you can put proficient in Microsoft if you know how to use Microsoft Office. I also put that I am proficient in Deduce, which is it's a qualitative data coding and analysis program. And so we use that to analyze qualitative data. I also know how to use Athena, and that's the EMR system that we currently use at the clinic. Oh my god, I'm getting tired. I can't talk anymore. But I also put that I am fluent in Spanish. It's important that if you do speak another language that you have it somewhere on your resume as a skill, because that is important to have, and it's important to know more than one language. And I also put other certifications that I have. So I have a COVID contact tracing certification. I might not end up using that, but you know, threw that in there. And I believe I'm also still a mandated state reporter. I had to do a certification a while back. That's what I have for that section. Okay, so those were the different categories that I had in my CV, okay? So what you do want to include in terms of descriptions of your position, you want to write where you worked. So it would be like the title of the place that you worked at. For example, if I did research at UIC, I would put University of Illinois at Chicago. Then below that, I would put my title, and so that kind of describes what you actually did there. And so again, going along with the idea of me doing research at UIC, I would put University of Illinois at Chicago. Right under, I would put research assistant. And then I start with the bullet points of what exactly I did there. You want to keep it pretty short and easy to read. It's also important to be careful with how you choose your words to describe things. You want to show that you always have leadership, or like that you took initiative, or you know, good qualities that, you know, employers would like. I have heard to stay away from like saying I assisted, because that makes you sound more like you were following directions, or like following orders, like you weren't necessarily taking initiative, you weren't necessarily being a leader, you were just doing what you were told. So I've been told to stay away from the word assisted. Being careful with your choice of words and trying to use more like action terms, as in like you did something. You want to make sure that they're quick to read, they're easy to read, and people can understand them. So whatever it is that you decide to write, I wouldn't write a paragraph per position that you worked for, because no one wants to read a paragraph. Everyone's eyes kind of like get drawn to the less wordy parts, and like bullet points are very nice. I'm gonna show you the format of mine. Okay, so I'm gonna start here because the top part is where I have my name and stuff and address. So I started here on the left with education. Again, we went over this, the school I attended, my degree that I'm working for or received, and my GPA. Then I have my personal interests, and this is just a summary of my interests and what goals I have for myself. Then I have my professional experiences. These are jobs that I've done. And so, for example, for the first job that or the most recent job that I'm doing, is that I am part of a virtual research lab, and my job title is just a researcher, and I analyze qualitative data, and I assist with manuscript writing. And so, you know, I just kept it short and sweet. Like, this is what I do, and like this is what I'm contributing to that project. And you can read the rest of those if you'd like, or pause the video. I also keep the dates on the right side of the screen, and like that, and I just feel like this makes it easier to read. Like when you're looking at this, you're like, okay, yeah, that's where she worked. Who knows? Okay, but you're like, okay, yeah, that's where she worked. That's when she worked there. This is what she does, and that's her title. And I like to bold the title so they, again, so their eyes are kind of drawn to that. Same, like for me, medical, like I'm a medical assistant and volunteer program coordinator. I did want to highlight that I started there as a volunteer first, and then I was hired in November. And yeah, so basically this is a format for mine. I really enjoyed this format because it literally was all done on Word. Like I don't need a specific format from any company or like Google or anything, and it's really easy to like edit it. Like my format never gets messed up because I decided to add something in there. Let's see. You see the titles are in bold and all capital. When I'm moving on to a different section, undergraduate leadership. Then here's the peer-reviewed publications. This is what I was talking about, that I bold my name. And then conference presentations. These are all the first author presentations that I've done. And these are the ones that I've co-authored on. So you see, like, for this one was done by Leslie, and I was like fourth author on this one. But I just wanted to they still have to give you credit, and you can still put it on your CV or resume. So if you were ever a co-author on someone else's presentation, or you added to your CV, it deserves to be there. You always want to make sure you update it. And then these are honors and awards that I have received. Again, the most recent one is this one, and the oldest is 13, number 13. So for me, I usually update my CV or resume every month. So each month I'll I hope this helps you guys like format your resume, CV, and I hope it like makes it easier for you. To that you should be updating your CV every time. Because what if I forget and I never end up putting that I was actually hired at the clinic? Doing patient intakes and stuff like that. So all that, maybe I'm doing something more. I want to make sure that, like, for example, updating my bullet points. Like I just got assigned a new role, then I'll go ahead and at the clinic. So instead of just putting like, and that just like I'm only like I said, I started off as a volunteer. I want to make sure I got hired. So I want to make drawing blood, and now I'm doing this and I'm doing that as a medical assistant. Actually hired at the clinic. Again, like with the clinic, I was hired as a medical office assistant, so I would do more administrative stuff, like answering phone calls, scheduling patients, another video, or just and then now I'm directly points as well.